So my current lease is ending soon. I was able to find my next apartment after viewing 32 different apartments and only one weekend. And on the third day, my application was approved. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my systematic approach on how I was able to view a lot of properties in such a short period of time without using apartments.com, Zillow, or realtor.com. Okay, some expectation management here. This is not going to be one of those videos where I go on a couple of tours and I tell you what I like and do not like about the apartment. That's because we all have different preferences for an apartment. What's important for me may be less important for you. The process I'm going to share with you can be applied by anyone because you can add your own personal preference later on. Frankly, all I care about is the kitchen sink because I like washing dishes by hand. I want one of those large, deep kitchen sinks with a gooseneck faucet. Lastly, to be fully transparent, I didn't physically tour 32 apartments. In fact, I only drove to 2 apartments. These were my top 2 choices out of the 32, and one of them eventually was the one I ended up signing a lease with. For multifamily investors, learning how to analyze comparable rents is important because that's what increases the apartment's value. Multifamily operators can do this without physically touring those properties. In fact, most operators can tour a property in Florida while living in Seattle. The process is very similar to finding an apartment to live. The goal is to cross out as many apartments and neighborhoods that doesn't match your criteria and only tour the ones that matter. Ideally, you want to narrow it down to your top 3 choices, and that will only take you 2 to 3 hours to tour all 3 apartments. That's way better than the alternative. She toured 10 properties in one day.
Today I scheduled a bunch of apartments that I'm going to be looking at. It is only 8 o'clock in the morning right now, so I'm going to be spending the entire day looking at apartments. Literally after 2 hours of a bunch of walking, driving, and phone call making, I got a hold of 3 of the apartments that I called and scheduled 3 more tours for this day.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Alright, let's get started. The theme of this method is to leverage information that is easily accessible. The first thing you should do is ask your friends or family for neighborhood recommendations, especially if they've lived in the city longer than you have. In my case, I only lived in Dallas, Texas for a little over a year, so I'm still getting to know the area. There may be small pockets of neighborhoods that fit my lifestyle, but I just haven't heard about it yet. So, since I fly a lot for work, on my way to and from the airport, I asked my Uber driver or Lyft driver what areas of Dallas they recommend for someone like me. So tell your friends or family about your likes or dislikes, whether you want to live near your workplace, or if you want to live near a new buzzing part of town, or if you like a quieter part of town. Next, identify your preferences and non-negotiables. It is very difficult to find a property that checks all the boxes. There are no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. Your preferences are your trade-offs. These are the things that you would like to have on your unit, but it is not the end of the world if it doesn't have it. These are the things like stainless steel appliances, garden style versus high-rise style apartments, or if it has a dog washing station or not. Don't go crazy on this part. Just be realistic about what you would want the most, but not need. Now, the non-negotiables are the must-haves for your next apartment. Examples of these are the size of the unit, the layout of the unit, the rent, and move-in date. The reason why unit size and unit layout are important is because you want to make sure all your current furniture will fit. So what I did was I went to my current property website and printed out my current unit's floor plan. Then I added the measurements using a measuring tape. I know, you might think this is a little bit over the top. You'll see later on how this will save you hours of work. Not to mention money, headache of getting rid of furniture that doesn't fit. Rent is an obvious one. This is my first filter after I identified an apartment complex. If the rent is outside of my budget, then it's pointless to spend any more time with that apartment. Remember though, rent is not the only out-of-pocket cost. Other fixed costs on top of the rent are utility, water, parking. These are just a few of them. These other costs typically add another $100 to $200 on top of your rent. Now, move-in date is an important non-negotiable. The unit you want to move into must be available from the time you plan to move out of your current unit. This is the second filter. If there are no units available from the move-out date, then I move on to the next apartment. Now for the fun part. You're now ready to start shopping for apartments. I viewed 32 different apartments and not once did I use apartments.com or Zillow. And there are 3 reasons why. First, apartments.com is not accurate. The information is either pulled from the MLS or the property manager has to update the site. Here's an example I found. According to apartments.com, there are 2 units available for the A2 floor plan, that is 1141 and 4121. But when I visited the property's website, the price for unit 4121 is $1691, and unit 1141 is no longer available. The second reason is all apartments are not listed in apartments.com because it is a paid service. Lastly, the review section in apartments.com does not allow the reviewer to post any images. The only reason I would use apartments.com is to find out the age of the building and how many total units are in the building. So what did I use? I only used one site, and that is Google Maps. This is how I use it. First, using the recommendations you gathered, you're able to eliminate the places you're not interested in and only focus on the areas you want. Go ahead and type the word apartments in the search bar. Now, Google Maps just pulled up all the apartments in the area. What you want to do is eliminate as many apartments based on your red flags. The best way to do this is by looking at the ratings and reviews. So first, set the rating to only show properties 4 stars or higher. Then start clicking at one property at a time. Let's use this one as an example. From there, go to reviews and then sort by newest first. You are looking for valid reviews. That's when the reviewer talks about how quickly the maintenance staff responds to tickets. How did they clean or prep the unit? Or if it is a really long and detailed review. Pest problems, walls are too thin, or a lot of police activity are things you should also look out for. Basically anything that will affect the quality of your stay in the apartment. Non-valid reviews are 5-star because the leasing agents were polite at move-in, or a 1-star because no one picked up the phone or kept the reviewer waiting for a showing. Reviews done 3 years ago are also considered non-valid reviews because the management might have changed for the better since then. If the property does have multiple red flags, then don't spend any more time and click another property, then repeat the steps. But if the property does check out, then click on the property's website. Find the button that says floor plans. First, select the number of bedrooms you're looking for, then check the prices. If it's not within your budget, then move on to the next apartment. Don't even look at the photos. If it's within your budget, then select the move-in date to see if that unit is available on your move-out date. There are property websites that show a range like plus or minus 7 days from when you move out. If the unit is not available, then move on. If it is available, then it's time to virtually tour the property. On the property's website, if it's available, look for a button that says virtual tours. This property uses a company called Matterport to get a 3D view of the unit, and it also allows you to move around as if you were there. This is the quickest way to get an idea of the unit before doing an actual walkthrough. This is where the printout of your current unit will come in. Matterport has this ruler feature where you can measure anything inside the property. This was incredibly useful for me because instead of a TV, I have an ultra short throw projector. So I'll need a long stretch of flat wall to project the 130-inch image. As you can see, a floor plan like this wouldn't work in my case. If you can't find any more red flags after viewing the unit and amenities, you can now add that property as a potential candidate. I created a simple spreadsheet to keep track of the properties that passes my criteria. I also included my current property as a reference point. Don't add more than 10 properties to this list. You'll feel overwhelmed and you'll be too stressed out to make a decision. Besides, if you follow the screening process I shared with you, it'll be very difficult for properties to make it on this list. Use the desirability column to rate the properties on the list. Refer to your preference list on which one you want the most. From there, just rinse and repeat. Once you narrow down your list, about 3 or 4 properties, then you can call to schedule an actual demo. I didn't leave my desk, yet I was able to get close to 90% of the information I needed to make an informed decision. Think about what you can do with the rest of your day. You didn't have to waste an entire weekend just touring properties. In fact, if you do it right, you can even tour properties during your lunch break and be back in time for your afternoon meetings. Since you made it this far, let me give you a couple of hot tips for apartment hunting. Tip number 1, pay attention to when the building was constructed. Older properties have a higher chance for maintenance issues. Even if the reviews say that the maintenance team is awesome and they're responsive, the less you need to get a hold of them, the better. Tip number 2, look for the kinds of shops around the area. If you see a Starbucks or a Chick-fil-A, more often than not, that is a trendy neighborhood. You see, these companies spend a lot of money to do their own research before even deciding to open a store in that area. They know their demographic and they're a ideal customer, so leverage their research. I like to call this the can I walk out late at night without my spidey senses tingling test. And if you see a Whole Foods, be ready to pay top dollar because that place is bougie. If after doing all your research, you find that there are some properties that are charging different rents with the same amenities, that's because not all apartment operators are the same. Some are experienced and some are inexperienced, or they're struggling right now. For whatever reason, this is the cause of a lot of pain for renters as to why the rents are so high. Now, you won't be feeling this pain because After watching this video right here, you'll understand how landlords come up with their rents.